We've been talking analytics. We've been talking analytics since the Denver Broncos 4th-and-1 call. Those who were all in on going for it at 4th-and-1, and those who thought he should kick the field goal in that situation. Sam Schwartzstein does this for a living. Amazon Prime, the football analytics expert there. When did analytics become a bad word here in sports?
I don't know. For me, it's always been a good word. When I was playing at Stanford, we used it a ton on decision making, mostly from a team tendency point of view. But I think what happened when early 2000s, when teams started changing how they approached the decision making process, and we're using what has been popularized from the hitting game of football, which is based off of a lot of the hitting game of baseball, where we're able to find that field position can contribute a lot to what you're likely to do next, or predict out the future scenarios and how much harder it is to play from inside your own 5. And, with the dawn of football, 3 points, 2 field goal possessions is actually worse than 1 touchdown possession with the 7 points. And that changing a lot of how we can approach the math of a game. I think probably the early to late 2010s is when it started to shift and become a big thing. And anytime you change, it's gonna cause some friction there.
Just feels like if we said probability, people wouldn't have as much of a problem as analytics. Sounds like I'm smarter than you, as opposed to probability. I don't know. We don't recoil when we hear probability.
You're hitting the nail on the head. And a large part of the decision-making process in analytics, as you say, is the conversion probability, right? And that 4th-and-1, the next-gen stats model had a 65% to convert. But when you look at it from a run versus pass scenario, it was 70% on the run and 55% on the pass. And they choose to call a pass play, right? So it's changing the math based on the play call. And I think that's what's hard when you have these public models like the next-gen stats model or different models that can often come up with different solutions. You're never going to have all the information that the team has. But what these models can do is help inform how should you game plan. When I used to consult with teams, I would say, just like you have a 3rd down period, you should start thinking about having a 4th down period and new play designs. Things like the tush push come out of it. At Stanford, we had a 95% conversion rate on short yardage. I moved the ball forward 1.5 yards typically until Notre Dame found out. And then on the other side of it we had a unique play design. It looked a lot like the tush push. We call it 64 lead dive. And when you're running behind David DeCastro and handing the ball off to guys like Stephon Taylor, it's going to convert. And so it changes the math and the conversion probability. And you need to focus on mostly, hey, here's a guiding principle on how you should approach 4th down. But the conversion probably is so important. And when I would consult with teams, it's all about conversion probably is not real. It's what's happened before in the similar situations. It's how confident are you in your play call in that scenario.
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand this, Sam, that the game is fluid. Can I upgrade my analytics during a game that's going to factor in their defensive line is better than we thought? The wind is whipping up. The weather is coming in. You already are factoring in Jarrett Stidham into this equation before the game, but how do you upgrade during a game?
That's a big part of what teams do. So the teams you'll often hear people go buy the book. Well, they actually print out a book based on what they think the game will be like and what scenario they're in to help guide their decision. And you look old school with the slide rule, looking for the situation, go, okay, coach, if we get to 4th-and-2 or less here, we should go for it. He says that typically the analytics expert, him or her, will say that on around the 1st down, once they cross the 50 in special scenarios, maybe sometimes in their own territory, and they're giving that feedback on 1st down so what you know what to do on 4th down. And so what happens with the update is if you predicted this to be a shootout and no one's moving the ball, kind of got to start going off a feel there, right? Or if you've entered a scenario, 4th-and-4, and you've already used all your really good 4th-and-4 plays, and they have a beat on what you're doing on 4th-and-4, that might change your confidence in your conversion probability in those scenarios. And ultimately, in these 4th-1s, and you're going to get models telling you to go for it, you really need to have the QB sneak involved because that changes the math so much. That if you QB sneak on 4th-and-1, it has a conversion probability in league-wide around 72%. We know the tush push and Josh Allen is different and better. If you don't, even if you run the ball, it's still around a 54% conversion prob. So it changes the math based on that play design. So if those plays aren't working and you have to move off of it, it's just as valuable as the weather changing or, hey, we expected something out of this Drake May offense that they're not performing that way. It might change our decision making.
But if I have analytics and you have analytics, chances are they're going to sync up. I know what you're doing and you know what I'm doing. Don't they cancel each other out?
No, no, because of how valuable field position is. And it's why we're seeing lower scoring games, shorter games, fewer drives. When I did the rule book at the XFL, it was 12 and a half drives per game. It's down to 11 drives per game. That might have seemed a lot, but that's one fewer scoring opportunity because we're having longer drives and you're starting in different field position spots. As good as the dynamic kickoff is helping teams start closer, failed fourth down conversion inside the 5, you don't see those points on the scoreboard, but when you look at the expected points, teams score only probably 3% of the time when they start inside their own 5-yard line. So it changes. Oh, okay, now you're likely to get the ball back in scoring position. And that's what's going through the mind of Sean Payton because, hey, even if I don't fail here, my defense is playing great. I'll still likely get the ball back on my own 40, which is a great spot to start.
Okay, that's fair. What would you have done in the moment? What did you say in the moment on the 4th and 1 call by the Broncos?
Well, I was on a plane to London. That's where I'm doing this call from right now. We started our innovation process. So I was on Gamecast. Couldn't get the game streaming. But I probably go for it there. It depends on the game plan. Jared Stidham, they felt confident in his running ability.
I hate that call, though, Sam.
I hate it too. I would rather him have a zone read or something. But to me, I'm basing a lot of my 4th and 1 decision off of QB sneak. And I really want to have it. It's why I love the teams that use the giant tight end to go in and do it. Because you're not contingent on the quarterback or putting the quarterback in danger to do it. An A.J. Barner, a Connor Hayward, those scenarios I would probably lean on. And one of the beautiful things about Next Gen Stats is we actually see where the ball actually was. On TV, you're just going to see it says 4th and 1. There's actually 4th and 1 plus 4 or 1.4 yards. So because we're in that it's not an integer, it's not a solid number on every time to go for it. That's probably why they wanted to call a bootleg. But I also don't like the call. When I would do the rules of the XFL, I never would tell the coaches what play to call because that's not my expertise, right? I have certain things I like to do, but I'm not a play caller or play designer. And so I'm going to lean on Sean Payton for what he wants to do, but he probably doesn't love the call either right now.
No, I don't think he does. Gut feeling over analytics. How do you balance that?
From my point of view, I lean heavily on the analytics, and that drives my gut feeling. If you watch Prime Vision with Next Gen Stats, you're going to hear me talk about team tendencies and how they approach the game, very similar to how I prepared for games, but all driven by analytics and data. Where I think gut feeling can come in is the same thing about those numbers. If I know you aren't going to blitz from your numbers, it can be a tendency breaker and can beat me. If I know that you're doing a tendency breaker in game, I might change my thinking. So I always
And the Patriots did something different, though, because you had 2 linemen who came right through on that play, and the defensive back could have had an interception. So they completely knew what was going on here.
Exactly, and that's where they're lining up in a unique formation, stop the sneak, as well as give a tougher read to the quarterback. And I think that's where first half timeouts, I don't really have too much. I'm not holding on to them as much as I am for the second half timeout. So if you see something funky, we talk about that all the time at Prime. It's like when we have our red orb show up and something funky's going on, like, hey, chill out a little bit. Let's take a breather before you just really dive in.
How much do you factor in the pressure of the game that regular season's one thing, playoff game, and now Super Bowl Sunday?
What happens in football is so much of the game is hinged on about 6 plays. We have 130 scrimmage plays per game, about 180 plays total, and 6 plays may decide the game. Just like being at the poker table, you can win over time playing small hands, but you get rich playing the big hands. You could also bust. And I think there's certain teams, if I'm a much better team and I feel much better in my confidence, I'm going to be probably less likely to run more dangerous plays. Versus if I'm the underdog in that scenario, I'm probably going to hedge higher on putting all my chips on the table.
Did you play for Jim Harbaugh?
I played 3 years for Jim and 2 years for Coach Shaw, David Shaw.
Okay. Harbaugh buy into analytics?
Depends. Tendencies very much driven by it. So at Stanford, we had under Greg Roman, he started this was the kill and alert system, and it was all based on team tendencies, and it all depended on what he thought his team could do great. We had Vic Fangio calling plays for us. Just think about that.
Oh, wow.
Stanford football team, like Vic calling plays. You had Andrew Luck. There's a funny meme from one of the message boards saying Sam Schwartzstein was only non-millionaire from that offense. So still true. And I think that was a big focus on what they wanted to do. But we also had a stellar defense, and so he's bought in on anything that'll help him win. And I think that's the big thing with him. And Coach Shaw is a very similar way. People would hate when Coach Shaw would punt from opponent territory, but hey, we won the Rose Bowl, something Jim never did, so it was a big deal for how do I play to my team's strengths.
But you also were cheating when you would hike the ball, but you moved it up, right? So how do you move?
Yard and a half.
Okay, how do you do that and nobody's calling you on it?
I'm going to have to show you next week. Hopefully you guys are in Santa Clara or San Francisco. But what I would do is, it's crazy. It's short yardage, fourth down. Everyone's screaming, going nuts. I would line up with my feet parallel on top of the ball. And as I'm calling the mic point out, I would just move the ball forward. Mike 52, Mike 52. And I would move it out. So I would extend my stance from my feet. In the Fiesta Bowl, I got 2 offsides penalties called on Oklahoma State. Didn't help us win the game because the officials were like, they're lined up offsides, but they lined up before I got set. And so that's why they got called offsides.
But Notre Dame busted you.
Yeah, Notre Dame's. I remember being on the team plane, and we landed. I'm pretty excited. I'm captain in first class, excited. We're going a couple days early. And Coach Shaw says, "Hey, Sammy, I need you to stay on the plane. I got to talk to you." And I'm nervous. What could this be? Did I flunk out of a class? I don't know what I did. He's like, "Notre Dame sent in 13 clips of you moving the ball forward. We got to fix it." And Sean Hockley made sure to yell at me every single play of that game, and we lost in overtime. Not that the scars are still there.
Great stuff, Sam. Safe travels, and hopefully we'll cross paths in San Francisco.
Have a good one. Thanks. Dream come true.
All right. Sam Schwartzstein, Thursday Night Football analytics expert.